Thanks for being here. I guess maybe I'll go ahead and get started, if that sounds good. Okay, awesome. Well, yes, hello again, everyone. Nice to see some students interested in the Pulitzer Center Reporting Fellowship. My name is Libby Moeller, and I am the Reporting Fellowship Program Manager at the Pulitzer Center. And today is just going to be a little info session about, what this fellowship is, how you can apply. There's also going to be time after my little slideshow that I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. And we also have Audrey, who was our 2023 fellow from Wisconsin here. Thanks, Audrey, for being here. I've also asked Audrey later on in the slides if she could just share just for a couple minutes about what her reporting project was about. And anything you want to share about your experience with the fellowship. So really appreciate you being here. I think with that said, I will go ahead and share my screen. Like I said, we will have time for questions at the end, but if you're thinking of questions throughout the slideshow, please feel free to go ahead and pop them in the chat, and I can definitely address them at the end of the slide presentation. I think we're also going to be recording this for students who may not be available today and who are going to tune in to this later on. All right. So I always start off with this first question, which is, what is the Pulitzer Center? On the screen right now, you're seeing our mission statement. And that mission revolves around championing the power of stories to make complex issues relevant and inspire action within our audiences. We are a nonprofit journalism and education organization headquartered in Washington, D.C., but with staff members based all throughout the globe at this point. And this fellowship is just one of many initiatives that we support. So speaking of the fellowship, this next slide, what is this opportunity? This is going to be a chance for a student to tell an underreported international story and gain really valuable journalism experience. If you are the recipient of the fellowship, you're going to be given a stipend of $5,000 to cover the costs related to your reporting project. So things like airfare to get to your destination, food, lodging, anything related to your project. You also get to join the Pulitzer Center Network, which includes all of the professional journalists who we've supported over the years and the alums of this program, which this fellowship program has been going on for more than 10 years. And we've really developed a far-reaching network of alums, some of whom are still in journalism, and some who have completely done other things. So it really is an opportunity that I believe can be applied to your future career, whether you want to be in media or not. You'll also have opportunities to broaden the impact of your reporting through outreach events that we will help facilitate at the Pulitzer Center. So our hope for this program is that we use it to empower the students at our campus consortium partner network schools. The University of Wisconsin is just one of our partners. We have more than 40, I think, at this point. Empower you to impact the world around you, create change, and engage with diverse audiences who might not have heard about your, the issue you are reporting on otherwise. We kind of break down all of the Pulitzer Center supported reporting into 5 focus areas. And that's what's on screen now. So those are going to include peace and conflict, information and AI, climate and the environment, human rights, and global health. These bullet points underneath these focus areas are just meant to serve as examples of kind of the subcategories you might target within those focus areas. However, you are certainly not limited to these bullet points. And a lot of times the stories that our fellows pitch to us are going to cover, more than one of these focus areas. That's completely normal, to kind of have various focuses in your story. So now you are seeing our 2023 cohort of reporting fellows. All of these students came from those 40-ish campus partners that I mentioned. And that network includes journalism schools, schools of public health, HBCUs, liberal arts colleges, community colleges, other state universities, just a very wide variety of institutions throughout the US. And this is a map showing where some of our fellows traveled in the last year. So as you can see, many different continents covered by this fellowship. It's really possible to go many places in the world with the support of this funding, although there are of course, some limitations with things like safety. That's always top of mind, but yeah, this is just to give you an idea of where our recent fellows were able to travel. In addition to this being a really valuable professional experience, we also like to think of it, we like to think of our cohorts as a community of, fellows and friends. The biggest part of that is this photo here in the middle. This is a photo from our 2023 Washington Weekend event. Washington Weekend, as it sounds, is a weekend-long event held in Washington, D.C., usually each October. And at that event, we bring together all of our reporting fellows from that year. We pay for your airfare and lodging. You get to present your work. You get to meet one another, explore the city, and just generally have fun. It's definitely a highlight of being a reporting fellow. And I like to think that a lot of fellows do come away from that weekend having made a lot of new friends and new professional contacts as well. Here's Audrey presenting her work at our last Washington weekend. Other aspects of how we kind of try to keep the reporting fellow community alive, we tend to host reunions, both virtual and in person, in different hubs where a lot of reporting fellows tend to move after graduation. We host those outreach events that I mentioned earlier. And we also do our best at things like Pulitzer Center conferences or Pulitzer Center supported events. We're always trying to involve and invite fellows, even alums of the program, to participate in those as well. This next slide is our Washington Weekend highlights video. It's about 5 minutes. And this will give you an idea of, first of all, what that event is like, but also what you can take away from, completing this reporting fellowship.
I'm really looking forward to networking with these people based off of the strength of their storytelling. I'm excited to hear more about their lives.
This is a really great opportunity to travel, try something new, to get the experience of taking on a grant and running with it and learning how to plan, learning how to execute a story that requires travel and where you're going to be on a fixed deadline.
I wanted to investigate what happens in the in-between space when a culture stays alive despite everything, to see all the changes of this modern world.
There's calls for Western science and indigenous knowledge to be incorporated more broadly on a national scale, but this community has been doing it for a really long time.
You know, people who are just starting their careers after graduating, or people who are still in university, to explore interest in international reporting, which is not something that people get to do a lot.
It's really wonderful to have everyone together here in DC to celebrate our 2023 Reporting Fellows.
Knowing that it is important to tell stories that mean something, you show why you care and why we should as well.
But I have come to believe that the same empathy that made me vulnerable has helped steel me. I've come to believe that that empathy has provided me purpose.
Many of the people that you will interview, that we interview, they're regular people. They're not experienced with the media, so it's so important to explain your process.
Gentrification and displacement, it assumes many different forms just depending on the history of the city, the people that are there, but it universally subjects housing and neighborhoods to commodification.
But because with the slight difference in events and roulette wheel of possibilities, we could have been raised in a different pair of shoes, looking through a different lens.
I would say, like, for students to really draw on their own experiences and their own backgrounds pretty pridefully. I think that filters a lot of your reporting very strongly and leads you to do a lot of impactful stories that I've seen so far today.
A really important part of the weekend for me was being able to talk about something I really am excited about, and you can feel that passion in all the other reporting fellows too.
I have kind of made it my mission to tell Zimbabwean stories from a decolonized lens, and that may sound elusive, but to me that just means telling our stories in a way that accurately and best represents us.
During my reporting, I explored the complex relationship artists have with artificial intelligence to hopefully produce a story of hope, companionship, and innovation amidst a time of grave uncertainty.
The Pulitzer Center aligned me with such wonderful mentors like Kem and Peter Canellos. As a student journalist, it can be overwhelming to be reporting abroad, so having a mentor who really cared about my project and cared about me so much was just so instrumental.
My experience at Washington Weekend has actually been pretty incredible. We can have community together and support each other. People who understand you and understand the work you do, I think, is really hard to find. And I'm really grateful for the space to build not just professional network, but also some friendships that I think are going to be lasting.
All right, so pivoting to some logistics in terms of the application process and next steps. The first thing that you will want to do if you are interested in the fellowship is, of course, complete the application. And I believe for you all at Wisconsin, that's going to be due March 20th, 2024. So still more than a month to be thinking about, or I guess just about a month since today is the 20th, to be thinking about your proposal idea. The most important part of this application is going to be this 250-word proposal description. This is where you tell us, what is your proposed story? What do you want to report on? Why is it important? Why should we care? Why now? Those are just some questions to kind of get you thinking about what to cover in that description section. You'll also include a budget or a breakdown of how you'd intend to spend that $5,000 stipend, some work samples or other clips, your references, and your resume. So once we receive all of the reporting fellow applications, The Pulitzer Center convenes a review committee, and we work along with our partners at University of Wisconsin to select that final reporting fellow. That person then gets to attend our virtual program orientation and onboarding sessions, which are set to take place in early June. Throughout this entire process, you will have the support of the entire Pulitzer Center staff, as well as a professional journalist advisor who we will pair you with. So this advisor is going to be someone who has also received a grant from the Pulitzer Center to report on a project. And we try our best to make sure to pair you with someone who is either really familiar with the area of the world where you're going to be traveling for your project, or they're really familiar with your general focus area or kind of subtopic. And then the reporting process begins. Most fellows are going to choose to travel sometime in the summer. That's not a strict requirement. It just tends to work out that way because people, have more free time away from school in those summer months. But every year we do have at least one or two people who, they might not travel until the fall or the winter. And that's totally fine. It just depends on your story, your schedule, and we work with you to, figure out the best timing. In terms of the deliverables or the work that you're going to produce with the fellowship, there are a handful of requirements. So the first being, everyone is going to have some type of main story, but that can take a lot of different forms. You can write a long form article. That's what a lot of people tend to do. But every year we also have at least a few fellows who do something like produce a short documentary or audio series. That's also totally acceptable. You'll also just need some type of multimedia in your project. So if you go the route of writing a long form article, one way to fulfill that would be to take a series of photos and kind of have them interspersed throughout your story. You're also more than welcome to choose video or audio for fulfilling that requirement. The last requirement is something called a field note. And a field note I usually think of as a personal reflection on the reporting process. So this is usually a shorter piece, oftentimes written in first person POV, where you can talk about something like a challenge that you might have faced in your project, something you learned about yourself, just anything you want to reflect on related to your project. So all of this work that I've mentioned is guaranteed to have a home on the Pulitzer Center website. But for those interested, you're also more than welcome to pitch your story to other editors and other news outlets. So we don't restrict you to publishing on our website only. And we definitely try to help you out with making those connections with outlets and editors when possible. This is just a slide that's showing some examples of places where fellows have published in the past few years. You see there's a lot of variety, including more local outlets. We actually have a couple from Wisconsin on here, Wisconsin Watch and Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, Blue Ridge Public Radio, another pretty local one. There's also bigger, more nationally or internationally focused outlets on here, like National Geographic, Foreign Affairs, Middle East Eye, and this is just a sampling. There are many, many outlets out there where your story can end up if you do want to try to pitch it. I'm now going to pivot to our Pulitzer Center website in the last few minutes of my presentation. You can get to our website, we're pulitzercenter.org. Also, usually if you Google Pulitzer Center, we'll come up pretty quickly. But this is the first thing I wanted to show you. This is our University of Wisconsin page on our website. Kind of talks about our partnership with your school. I think we've been in this partnership since 2020. We also have all of the reporting fellows from your school linked down here, along with their stories or other things related to your school. I thought now, Audrey, if it works for you, while I'm pulling up your project here, maybe you could talk for a minute or two just about your experience as a fellow, maybe telling us a bit more about how you came to report on migrants from Tunisia, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, thanks, Libby. It's so good to see you. Yeah, so I'm Audrey. I think I know some of you guys here, so hi. I'm a senior in the J School, and yeah, I was lucky enough to get the fellowship last year, and I was looking for a story that I was really passionate about, and at the time I was taking Arabic, and my TA is from Tunisia. She's there now, but I was asking her about like some of the more pressing issues in Tunisia right now. And she is from a city in Tunisia that has a really big influx of migrants from sub-Saharan Africa. And she said that there's been a lot of sort of racist rhetoric around migration in Tunisia, especially in the city she's from. And so I sort of narrowed that down. I thought that was really interesting, really important. And at the time, it was very underreported. And so I sort of narrowed that down to focusing on women migrants in Tunisia. And so that was the story I originally pitched, and sort of, focusing on, what community have these migrants found in Tunisia. And during the summer before I actually went, because I went in August, I think news outlets started picking up that story a little bit more. So, I was like, well, how can I explore this from a different angle? And that's something that I guess I would suggest and just have you keep in mind, is that your story and your pitch is probably going to change, and for you to be flexible to it changing and kind of developing in a way maybe you weren't expecting. It'll be good to keep your mind open to that. So I ended up writing 3 profiles about migrants in Tunisia, some of them from sub-Saharan Africa, and then one of them from Tunisia. And he was, I think that's the one on the right, that I'll do it again. So he was a Tunisian teenager who tried to cross to Italy in a blow-up kayak. And he said, I'll do it again, because he really wants to go. And so he's just going to keep trying. And so I guess that's sort of a little anecdote that I thought was, something cool that came up in my reporting. But yeah, I'm happy to answer any other questions. I'm not really sure what else, but yeah, it's a great, the Pulitzer Center Fellowship it completely changed my life. And as someone who always wanted to be an international reporter, I think it was pretty much the perfect opportunity.
Thanks so much, Audrey. And also congrats. I'm pulled it up now on your OPC.
Oh, thanks.
But yeah, definitely, if you are interested in the fellowship, be sure to take a look at Audrey's project, take a look at all the other projects from your fellow Wisconsin students as well. All 3 of them have done really, really amazing work. And I think reading through them, you're going to get a good idea of the types of stories that are possible, with this funding. We also have another place where you can explore a little bit is this Reporting Fellow Story homepage on our website. This is where all Reporting Fellow work is collected, no matter what school they're from. So just kind of scrolling through here and just reading the headlines and project titles alone, I think you can get a good idea of, those focus areas that I mentioned, how this reporting is fitting into those areas, how some of these projects are covering multiple focus areas. And I think it's just a good way to, kind of get brainstorming, get inspired, see what's possible with the help of this fellowship. The last page I'm going to show is our Reporting Fellowship homepage on the website. Lots of helpful links on here. You can look back at our 2023 cohort of fellows and see a little bit about what each of them are reporting on. We also have some testimonials here from alums of the program. This links back to that stories page. We have recent updates relating to reporting fellows and the campus network in general, more testimonials. And then down here is our focus on Washington Weekend. So if you want to see more about what that event is like, and there's many more fun photos and quotes and stuff from that weekend. So definitely take a look if you're interested in learning more. That loaded kind of slowly, so I'll go back to my slides here. But yeah, this is my last slide, which is just to say, you know, I'm happy to take any questions that you may have. As Audrey said, hopefully she's also open to answering some questions if you have any for her specifically. If you scan this QR code, that should take you to our Pulitzer Center website. And kind of easy access to all of those pages that I showed you. And then this email is just somewhere where you can reach me specifically. That's reportingfellows@pulitzercenter.org. Please feel free to write that down. You can reach me at that address with questions about the reporting fellowship or just about the Pulitzer Center in general. We have many more opportunities for students and emerging journalists apart from this reporting fellowship program. And we're constantly hosting events and webinars as well that, you know, we'd love to see you attend. So yeah, with all that said, I'll go ahead and stop sharing and open it up to questions if anyone has them.
Hi. Oh, should we use the chat bar for questions? Sorry.
No, either way, it totally works. Go ahead, and then we'll take a look at the chat. Okay, Audrey, I see a question for you here, which is, were there any language barriers for you while you were investigating your story in Tunisia? Did you encounter any cultural shocks being in a foreign country? And if so, how did you navigate that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There was definitely a language barrier. I study Arabic here, but Tunisian Arabic is very different. But what's really nice about the fellowship is there's if you can find room for it in the budget, you can find a translator or a local journalist in the country that you go to, and like they will help you, or like you can hire them to help you with the language barrier. So that's what's really nice. I don't remember how much that was for me, but yeah, and to do that, I used like Facebook and Instagram, and through like mutuals. Yeah, I can help you depending what country you're going to. And then cultural shocks, Tunisia, not really. I think like not any that come to mind, no. But I'm sure that there would be, depending on what country you go to again.
I was just wondering, I saw looking at some of the other projects that there were some students who did their reporting in the US. I know that you explicitly said international reporting earlier. Do you ever have fellows who will spend like part of that first week in the US and then spend the next week abroad if that like pertains to their project?
People have definitely done that. I guess I might turn to my partners at Wisconsin just to make sure, because I can't remember if our requirement here is that it all has to be done internationally.
Libby, I'm happy to try and answer that. Sorry, I'm Chanad. I'm the Associate Director of the Institute for Regional and International Studies and the one of the partners within the campus consortium. Because our campus consortium is international, our focus would be on international. If you can justify the need for, let's say, a domestic part of your research being done, reporting being done domestically, that's possible. You'd have to make make some kind of argument for how it relates to the international component of your reporting.
Thank you.
I also, I mean, it's super common, you know, your story might be like have this international focus, but maybe let's say you do all your reporting in the field and then you come back and you have to do some more like Zoom interviews or something. You're like physically in the US, but you're still reporting on that international topic. That's like totally fine. One way, like one example of kind of the doing both is Lauren Harpold, who is our Washington University in St. Louis fellow this past year. She was reporting on gentrification, looking at St. Louis, Missouri, kind of versus Amsterdam in the Netherlands. So that's one example where she did some reporting in her, you know, university community because it was like in comparison to a city abroad. She still traveled to Amsterdam and a lot of her reporting focused on that. So that's an example of how that might work. Yeah, does that answer all of your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, I see another question here from maybe there are two Rachels in the meeting. Okay, it says, I have no journalistic experience or training, but most of the fellows I read about come from journalism and comms fields. Does the lack of experience and training disadvantage me? That's a good question. So in this cohort of fellows, as I said, they come from like the 40 some schools that we work with. A lot of the schools don't actually have official journalism programs or journalism schools. So it is common that we have fellows who, this is kind of one of their first like big steps into the world of journalism. So that is common. That definitely happens a lot. And we do see the fellowship as, you know, somewhat of a learning experience. That being said, I mean, the more experience you have, the better probably, or it just might, you know, the more experience you have, you just might have that experience to like write a really strong pitch and kind of show that you've done, you know, similar projects before. So that will strengthen your application probably, but I wouldn't be discouraged from applying in general just because you don't have as much experience as other applicants might. Because a lot of times, there was a 2023 reporting fellow who was from a law school who hadn't studied journalism before. So it's real, like the fellows come from all sorts of different backgrounds, and have all sorts of different experiences. And I think, like I said early in the presentation, the fellowship is a really great writing and communication, you know, just interpersonal listening, meeting people. Like it's just like a really great experience to do all of that. And those are things that apply to so many different career paths. So please do apply, even if you maybe don't have as much journalism experience. I think you could still get a lot out of it. And like I said, you have, you know, my team is there to help you. You're going to have that professional journalist advisor to, you know, be a resource. You'll also be a part of a cohort of like 45 plus students who we, you know, connect you guys and try to create a community where, you know, questions are encouraged and you can use one another as resources. Lauren, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, hi. I have two questions. One is for Audrey. Did you publish anywhere else? And if so, when were you in contact with editors? Was it during the time you were writing your application? Or did that come later, possibly like in the months that you were doing the actual reporting? And then my second one is for Libby. I'm interested in like fixer, I don't like that word, but like fixer ethics. And if I end up working with a local journalist, would the Pulitzer Center accept maybe a joint byline with a local journalist that like proved to be integral in the reporting?
I can answer that second thing really quickly while you're thinking, Audrey, which is yes, definitely. We've definitely done that before and are very open to that, both in our reporting fellow projects and a lot of our like professional grantees end up, having bylines with others as well.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And then to answer the one that you asked me, I didn't publish mine anywhere else because it was sort of a group of 3 profiles. So I think getting one pitch approved is hard enough. So it was sort of, I kind of liked the fact that the Pulitzer Center just published all 3 together. But I think that people who did publish theirs, I think it ranges, but definitely pitch it after the application, but like you can start reaching out to people right away once if you're given the fellowship, and then also after too, like once you've maybe started writing and have a better idea of what the actual story is, that might honestly be better because then you have a more like a stronger pitch, and your advisor will help you with that too, so you can definitely like bounce ideas off them.
I can
Thanks.
also add to that yeah, I feel like reporting fellows go about, getting their story placed elsewhere in so many different ways. I don't know if there's like a one size fits all approach. Some, every once in a while, a student, maybe interned somewhere previously and they pitch us saying, my editor at my former internship, would be interested in publishing this. So, before they've even gotten the fellowship, they've kind of shopped around. Another way, sometimes students start pitching before they've even gone into the field. And this is a big topic of conversation, amongst reporting fellows. Like, do I pitch the story before I've reported or after I've reported? I think our team and Kem Sawyer, who's our program director, kind of believes in both ways that it can work. Sometimes editors, want to have a role in the story before reporting has even started and can kind of give you pointers. Sometimes they love to see a story that's like all finished and ready to go, and all they have to do is, add some edits. So there's no one right way to do it. It can work at various times throughout, the whole reporting process. Hopefully that's helpful to know.
Yes, very. Thanks a lot.
Okay, another question in the chat. How do you go about finding leads and getting interviews in the community that you are reporting in, especially when the location is international and you are working with a limited time being there? Audrey, would you want to speak to your experience connecting with people?
Yeah, I think that something that I really learned from the Pulitzer Fellowship is that pre-reporting is extremely important. So take like, right when you get the fellowship, using all of that time until your trip to connect with journalists who have covered similar stories to what you're covering, and then, asking them for any suggestions for people to talk to. I think NGOs are always good, like reaching out through their website or social media sometimes. And I guess for me, like immigration offices in Tunisia were really good. And then in terms of like people there, I think you either, go there and you will go somewhere where there is a source, or for me, I think it was really helpful to have my Arabic TA be from Tunisia so she could, sort of like point me in the right direction. So also using your advisor, like there's a lot of ways to do it. I think honestly, social media is really a good way to do it. And I think especially in other countries, like Instagram is huge. Like it's a really big communication platform. So starting there, starting in Facebook groups. There's a international reporting group called the Vulture Club that you can apply to be in. And my advisor, Jacob Kushner, told me to join that, and it's been super helpful. And you have to like apply and say why you want to get in, and then the like admin will allow you to get in there. But yeah, it's super helpful. Like they especially point to like local journalists, which is always good, and then that will hopefully lead to sources. So there's a lot of ways to do it, but I would just suggest starting early, and also building trust in the communities that you go to. I think is like the biggest thing. Like you don't just want to show up and be like, can I interview you? Like, like build trust. Like explain why you're there, what the story is going to be, like what the reach might be. Just keeping those things in mind.
Another place that I feel like a lot of fellows look for in terms of kind of initially searching for sources is, like local universities or education, institutions in the area where you're traveling. Some people also will start really early and start reaching out, before you've officially submitted the proposal. When doing that, you can be emailing and saying things like, I'm pursuing funding to report on X, whatever your focus is going to be. If I were to receive this grant, would you be open to interviewing with me? That's one way to kind of put out feelers and see, how responsive people might be. Yeah, definitely, as Audrey said, it's great to get started, at least looking for people and trying to make those connections before you travel, because as I've heard, your time in your destination can go by really quickly. So good to kind of get a head start on that.
Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question, but I can't seem to find the raise your hand button. So yeah, this is for Audrey and Libby. You can also help in that regard. So I'm interested in the post reporting phase and how Audrey, you have been able to either maintain the relationship with these communities that you visited and researched on. And I asked this in relation to communities that don't necessarily have access to the finished product that they were a part of. Have you been able, this is a challenge that most researchers face. And so I'm curious to know if you have been able to find a way around it that in a way still involves them in the finished product where either they have access to it or anything. I'm just interested in the post-reporting phase as it relates to the communities.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I've gotten lucky in that I've been able to reach the people that I've written about and that were in the stories through, again, social media and then through the local journalists that I met in Tunisia. I mean, it depends on the source, but usually I'm able to still keep in contact and check in every once in a while and hear their feedback on the stories too, which is helpful too going forward. But I'm not sure how other people do it. I think that was just my experience was honestly like Instagram is really great or Facebook Messenger or WhatsApp is always great. Just to like get their information when you meet the sources and then check in after that and be sure that you have informed consent for all the stuff that you write and yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Another thing that I feel like Pulitzer Center has started, I mentioned there might be opportunities for outreach or related events to kind of keep talking about your project even after the reporting has been completed. And one approach that we started taking in the last couple of years when people are open to it in these events is not only featuring, the voice of the journalist, but when possible, if we can involve one of the sources as well in the story to be invited to the event and also be like a voice on a panel to talk about their experience being a part of the project or their knowledge on this topic. That's something that we've been trying to do more and more at Pulitzer Center, and another way to think about how you could keep those relationships going, even after your reporting is done.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much.
I went ahead and just put that one of the links to our website in the chat. I think it's our stories homepage. In case you want to check that out, I'll also put that email address that I listed in the slides here in the chat. Because like I said, if you think of any questions later down the line, definitely feel free to reach out to me. I know earlier on, the application for your school was also put in the chat, so definitely check that out. And take a look at what all is involved in that application. I think we have a few minutes left, but if there are no more questions, I'm also happy to give you guys some of your time back.
Libby, can I maybe just say a couple of things related to the UW application? I think one of the key things is to propose an underreported story. I'd like to emphasize that. I don't think it matters so much for UW, but the way the selection process works is that our committee submits a short list of applicants to Pulitzer, and then it's Pulitzer who will, in consultation with us, make the final decision. And one of the things that I learned last year serving on the committee was how important the underreported side is. Find something that is, or find an angle or a sort of an underreported story. The other thing is please check to make sure that the location that you intend to do your reporting and field work in is safe. You can reach out, to us in Iris NRC if you have concerns, and we can certainly pass you on to the security and safety officer in the international division, who can advise you on whether the location you're suggesting is appropriate. UW won't let you travel if it's a place that is deemed too unsafe. So that was the other thing. And finally, I think the thing, especially for undergraduates, might be how do you put together a budget? Right? How do you put together a budget for something like this? So we do have a sample budget in the application form that you can base your budget on. And I don't know, be inventive. You add a budget, a line item for a translator or a guide or a whatever it is you might need, a recording device, that kind of stuff. So I think I just wanted to mention those things.
Yeah, I'll definitely second that point about safety and kind of doing that pre-research in the destination where you'd want to go. One thing that we tend to look at the Pulitzer Center and that we usually recommend are the travel advisories put out by the State Department. It's on the scale of 1 to 4, I believe. So please do, if you have even any small concerns that, there could be a safety issue, please do check in about that. It's always really, really disappointing to see an application that's really strong and really fascinating, but that we just, cannot take the risk of sending you there pretty much no matter what, then we have to veto that proposal. So get ahead of that and just check in first, before you propose going to a certain destination. And along with that, please do go to the Pulitzer Center website. And if you have your idea kind of forming, I would recommend just searching for it on our website just to make sure that that exact project hasn't already been done. that's another reason we might have to just say no to a project if it's, almost completely identical to something that a fellow has done in the last year or two. And if you have questions about that, or you see something that you're like, oh, that might be a little close to what I want to do, please feel free to email us and reach out, and I can help clarify that. Well, maybe we can go ahead and wrap up then, if there are no more questions. Yeah, I really appreciate all of you being here. And thank you again, Audrey, for taking the time to join us and answering all those questions and sharing a bit about your project. It's much appreciated. And for, I think, offering your email in the chat as well. I think you did that, right? Yes, okay, I see it there.
Yeah, thanks so much, Libby. It was nice to see you. And anyone can send me an email at I think it's up there. Yeah. But it's probably in the directory too. But yeah, feel free to reach out. And good luck.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. And I'll say good luck as well. And yeah, have a great rest of your day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Libby. Thank you, Audrey.
Bye.
Bye-bye.